Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Flat Earth UK Live. With me tonight is a man who needs little introduction, Matt Powerland. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nathan. How are you? I've enjoyed, most notably, I'm really into the out-of-the-box global debunking or the simple proofs, the Occam's razors. And sometimes they could just be analyzing the railing on a boardwalk and how it goes on infinitely, and then measuring between two lines. Hold on a second. Just want to make sure that I'm recording here, because all this shit is wiretap friendly. This computer, that camera, and they shut it off.
They shut it off?
They shut off my camera continuously. I can actually upload footage from the camera directly to the web. There's a Wi-Fi transponder on the like a Bluetooth thing to upload images. So I mean, it's wiretap. Everything's wiretap. Ever since I think it's 2003, not long after the World Trade Center situation. Just a little piece of history. They didn't stop building analog communications devices. It's forbidden. You're not allowed to build a tape recorder that runs on a ribbon anymore. You can't, if you're a manufacturer. So everybody in the West and in the East, coincidentally, big polemic divide between East and West there. They seem to agree on everything. Yeah, you can't build anything unless it's got a digital transponder or communication, and it's got to be wiretap friendly. You can't build anything analog anymore. So we have a mono technology platform. I think it would have been great. You know, we have digital communication and analog. So under security reasons, they just shut it off. They just shut it off. Unbelievable. I guess I'm going to record it. Do you mind if I do this? Because and this is all part of the game. I think this is probably the most enjoyable personal sitcom for the royal families of this world. Is me.
Oh yeah, they're loving it. The psychos are loving this.
Yeah,
this is just brilliant.
So here I'm going to try to get I mean, you're recording this, right?
Well, this is going out live. No, don't bother.
What's going out live? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so anyway, that's not going
I'd like to kick off,
not going to record. And obviously, every time I turn this thing on, it's like that green frog in Bugs Bunny that's singing. You know, in the Looney Tunes, there's a song. This guy is in a construction site, finds a frog that sings, but every time he puts it out in front of an audience, the frog just goes ribbit and doesn't sing. That's the way it is trying to record any kind of interview with me for posterity, just so I can legally have an account of it, because it's so much smear. I got my cursor's moving on me right now. All right, so somebody's enjoying this. So yeah, the point of the matter is,
well, I want to ask you before we do anything else, because I ask all my guests, how did you find out the Earth's flat?
Well, it's more like, how did I have my brain hijacked that it wasn't? So as a kid, I mean, I connect to the to that original moment when somebody said we're spinning on a ball, and it's just like, no, I'm going to shut up. But everybody seems to think this, and they're like, oh my God. Okay, so everybody thinks this. I'm a kid, right? So everyone listening to the kids, the other kids are going, yeah, it's a ball, we're spinning. It's like, yeah. And then the adults, yeah. So I'm like, okay, so so that's taken care of. And then I went with it. It wasn't until I was involved with some people, crossover between art and science, aerospace, design, and Canadian American government, space industry, and even the Cirque industry was involved. I mean, matter of fact, one of the guy's brothers I would paint for, he was one of the only civilians up. And so I found out he was going to go up in 2002. I was taken aside because I was working with some Cirque du Soleil people. And in 2002, his brother told me he's going to go into space. And I was like, back then I didn't know, so I'm like, he's going into space. I thought he was high. He was high. His brother did still go into space. And it was around that time there where some people of influence in aerospace and design at a party in the Hamptons where the power went out. I was informed, and I still don't. Yeah, I imagine to this day it was kind of like the rite of passage before I would get heavily involved to see if I had like a naughty sense of humor and I could keep a secret.
So they're testing you.
I guess I could. Yeah, to just see if I've got that kind of. I think I kind of got through because I had certain talents with puddle effects and fractal mathematics and stuff like that, and I was working in design and fake finishes and making things look real with rocky textures and stuff like that, but just analyzing puddles evaporate. And and a lot of that could pose as celestial bodies or surfaces on these celestial bodies. And,
I mean, you did. You
had a real knack. What's that?
In your perception test, I mean, you went on stage and actually showed people this live, did you not?
Yeah, that was part of so I was told one evening by some gentlemen in that sphere of influence in that industry. And then I ran into a few artists that were way more involved and with NDAs.
Okay.
And over a few pints of beers. I was doing comedy at the time and stuff like that. And I was being courted from the television industry and all this stuff. As a political scientist who doesn't need to write policy for government because I'm a contract painter, artist from days of old. I do commission work. I don't even need a high-powered agent that's taking 80% of my sales out of Manhattan. I just hustle and make money. And when I'm making money, I'm out on stage blowing a pressure valve doing stand-up. And I didn't need to go the Hollywood route, and because I was an artist, and I certainly didn't want to be overshadowed walking down the street playing some goofy character in a sitcom when I'm trying to do some real work. Artwork, for me, is one of the only things that seems to span the test of time and eras. I've always been into what's the blasphemy and the taboo of the day. And it's interesting looking at the Caravaggio situation where the Pope back in the day commissioned him to paint some angels. And, angels back then, they're like ethereal spiritual beings and entities that we don't really see or can't see through vision and blah, blah. And it's a spiritual, divine, symbol and a strong, powerful symbol for the papacy and Catholic faith. They commissioned him to paint these angels. And he's one of the best painters back in the day. And nobody holds a candle to this guy. But you don't hear about him. You hear about all these other sort of crowd-pleasing hacks like Da Vinci and Michelangelo and all the rest, But they came to see his work. I think a couple of bishops, or it was the Pope himself. And he painted the angel with its bare feet firmly planted on the ground. And that just was blasphemy, that you would have an angel standing on the ground. It's like, why aren't these angels flying and floating? And it's like, well, because my angels are they're grounded. This one's on the ground. It's taking a break from flying. That was blasphemy. Shortly after that, he got in a fight, and I don't know if it had any kind of, there's a bit of a gray story going on, but what happened in the circumstances of his life, got in a fight in a tavern. It might have been because he was painting angels on the ground. People flipped out. You don't paint angels with the dirt. What are you doing? So it was a form of blasphemy to paint the angels on the ground. Artists have always kind of, challenged notions we think are just, that's the way it is. And in an artist's point of view, just sort of looks at it and goes, is this what you guys all believe in? Well, what if I put the angel's feet on the ground? And then, woo, that's crazy. People flip out. They want to punch you. They have psychological reactions because you're not supposed to put angels in the dirt, So that was a big problem. He got in a fight, and then the guy died, and then there was hearsay that he got framed for the murder because he did this, because he was not a controllable painter. Back then, this is before cameras. So the painters were the rock stars, right? Along with Mozart and the composers, right? There was no radio station. There was no TV. So, boom. So this guy was basically just running around the countryside, painting in barns or in people's clients' houses or guest houses and grain silos. Unbelievable works of art. And he was still making money and hustling, but he was wanted by the law, by the Italian authorities for this murder, which he could have been framed. He didn't do. And so what's the blasphemy of today? Oh, we'll paint like dynamite and Allah's turban. Okay, that flips out a whole group of people that are, Muslim. Oh, we'll paint like the Virgin Mary on, naked and pole dancing. All this kind of like ridiculous, or I don't know,
cartoon of Muhammad.
What's that?
Cartoon of Muhammad.
Yeah, all this stuff that really kind of. But when I was told it's flat, and then I was like, as a painter, I was like, well, but the image, as I was seeing it, I was realizing, dude, you're falling prey to your own trickery. You never questioned it, and it was the epiphany. I had to make the crossover immediately as a photorealist painter, and then address the fact that I've never seen that point of view from space.
So you're actually working on a project or something when you had this realization?
Well, I was being courted, and I was just basically doing a lot of like puddle effects, and like certain other artists were using the layer masking and layering to do different types of textures that you could easily cut out circularly with a black backdrop, and it would look like a planet. So so the way it works is that there's many departments, and they're compartmentalized. So these companies that work with, in the field of aeronautics or hypersecurity or the military industries and sensitive sort of areas of security or aerospace, they will use security and espionage also to prevent people from spying on them, but also so people don't realize that there could be some other operations going on, people who work within the organization themselves. So you have 10 subcontractors, and then within those subcontractors, you'll have departments and compartments. You'll have the main NASA headquarters or labs, and you also have one, and then they're scattered all over the place. So a piece gets built here, a piece gets built there, a texture sent in here, it's sent across the internet to this person there. It's layered and changed to the point where it's unrecognizable, and things are just moving around at light speed. And there's a small group of people just sort of coordinating the entire thing on a need to know. And these people, I would believe, are pretty battle hardened, as they say, or hardened to humanity. They don't give a shit. They're just doing their job. They're getting paid very well, and they're aware of it. You don't need too many people to pull off this ruse, because there's so many people that spent. They paid off their student loan, like that's into the $200,000 to become a physicist or to become an engineer. They're not going to question this at all. They've been dreaming since they were a 6-year-old boy or girl to be an astronaut or to work for NASA. So they're there now. Forget it. They're a write-off. But this kind of zealotry and this kind of like invested intellectual pride in your vocation or in your field is a very, very strong ingredient in pulling off this compartmentalized, departmentalized aerospace rules. So we can control the value of real estate and also modify humanity in a fenced-off area, like genetically, through their food, through their air, through their water, and also through technology. We're reformatting the brain right now through screens. We're creating addictions to the phone. The brain is being formatted by frequencies coming out. There's a lot of Harvard research on this. My sister's been doing research on this right now. She won't even let me know about it, but they've been intentionally have formatted screens so that it's starting to reorganize the neurosensory pulsation of the gray matter behind your skull cap. You ever notice you're just driving and you just want to pick it up?
Phone.
You like it? You like the phone? You like being on Facebook? Or do you feel like you need it? Like really analyze that.
It's so addictive. It's horrible. It's a horrible sensation. You start using it, just post a message or publicize something, and the next thing you know, you're suckered in and you're on it for an hour. And where's that time gone? Yeah,
and it's something biochemical that's going on now with the screens. I'm very honest with myself and my own constitution and my own kind of habits, and I could compare. I'm a very lucid human being, very neutral and objective. I don't speculate. If I speculate, I won't factualize off speculation. I will speculate off of a fact and then say this is speculation, where science, present status quo science, itself won't tell you it's speculation. Like they'll go off, and Neil deGrasse Tyson will go off with, and all this stuff. And this is based off an assumption. And then it's based off the bigger assumption, if the Earth is a ball. And then that is defended through the treaties of gravity. And then we go several hundred years before even the airplane or anybody even goes to either pole or NASA's introduced. It's funny when you look at the original old footage of the globe, like at the turn of the century, like when the film industry started, you look at Universal and it's a black and white ball. And then slowly it starts getting more and more realistic. But this is like in the 50s. They didn't even go to the moon yet, but they're making it more realistic. Their logo, first it's just a little propeller plane, then it's you'll notice it before even the space race starts. Like the globes are getting more realistic on the black and white television before they go into color and all that in the 50s. And then you look at Stanley Kubrick in 1961, and you'll look at some of the watercolors of the Earth that he did. It's more realistic than the CGI they provide you today. They claim as a photo, or from the Japanese satellite that's taking a picture every 10 minutes of the Earth. By the way, you got to change the typhoon over the South China Sea, because that typhoon's been heading towards Japan for the past 5 months. So, yeah, I still got people, this is real time, and they sent it to me. I can go look at it in a week. It's still there, the typhoon. Idiot. So, I mean, I don't, I shouldn't call them idiots. I try to be a very gentlemanly about the whole thing, but it's just, it comes down, I mean, it's pretty sad. Here we are saying, just questioning it. It's a blasphemy. First, it's like you're an idiot or you're stupid. That's the first reflex with a globalist, because they never questioned it. And there's a lot of pride possession going on in the intellectual intellect of a human being when they're approached with this. Because the first reaction is like, it's impossible, you're smarter than me.
Yeah, you can't know something I don't. It's not possible.
You figured this out? No, you couldn't have figured this out, and the rest of us were fooled. There's no way, because I mean you're the smartest person, so you must be an idiot. You're not looking at this properly. Then you debunk them, you give them like telescope, still see the boat, all these images of the Earth are paintings. You show them a couple proofs here. And then it goes from,
it's all this your opinion.
then it goes it's your opinion. Then it goes to crazy. If they don't know how gravity, because they don't know how their model works. They don't know how gravity works. They don't know how they don't know how their universe works, but they believe that that's it. Or they know, but then they're reduced to believe. Well, I believe, and then it's like the fight. Either they make the leap and they're open, or the more they invest on the wrong side of history, which is the status quo, which is now being exposed. I find them more aggressive they can become. Almost like there's some form of possession going on.
Well, I wouldn't say possession. I'd say programming. I mean, you've summed it up with the screens of modern
I would say programming, but when it gets to the point where I'm getting comment. I'm seeing the turn lately with the comments on my channel. And
How do you mean?
It's very interesting. Well, first I just want to get, so the modern day blasphemy, back to why am I playing around with this? I'm now compelled to, because I was told I couldn't debunk it. I went through 3 years of cognitive dissonance myself, and then started testing out the waters with, friends and family debating.
So when was that? When were you in the midst of cognitive dissonance?
Well, this is 2002 to 2005. I'm like, did they plug all these little details to keep the illusion? You're crazy.
It's a long time.
This far, but I was like, no, it doesn't. You don't need too many to plug there, and they are plugging it. So the whole thing was like, it looks like it's an elaborate, orchestrated security deception, where images are used to support a theory of the amount of land we have or the shape of our world. And these images plug together these equations. And then you have a security perimeter where you can't go, either be a border of a nation, but if you keep going in a straight line, I found that very fascinating. If I just keep going south, even with my passport, I mean, sooner or later, somebody pulls out a gun and says, stop. It's like if I go too far south, somebody pulls out a gun and shoots me in the face. It's like, yeah, you can have your visa, you can keep if you just start walking south, sooner or later someone's going to stop you and shoot you. people go, no, anybody can go. It's like, that's not true. Not anybody can go to Antarctica the way we're proposing. No paths. And nobody's done it yet. So nobody's done the next level of Columbus. So
can you tell us exactly what you're proposing in your most recent interview that you published? You sort of go into detail of exactly what it is you're proposing.
And that's basically the blasphemy of the modern era. And the reaction human beings have when I say that the picture of your Earth is a painting is like people seeing angels with their feet barefoot on the ground. They freak out. There's a meltdown when you say you've never seen that point of view. Like a zealot, religious, pseudo-religious, occult meltdown in the faculties of the human mind, because they have to come to the fact they never went up to space to see the Earth as a ball, and all they have is from flat, square screens, an image, and never anything in real time. And it's 2015 now. We don't have a full one-day spin of the Earth as a ball. And the reason why is because if it's real time, I see a cloud over Australia, I can call up my buddy in Australia, is that cloud there? And if it's not, and if it doesn't look like it does like from space, from the Hubble, well then they're busted. So they can't even afford.
Did you see the
race with World War III right now?
Did you see what came out of Japan with the Terminator line spinning around and around?
The Terminator what?
There was a piece of footage that came out of Japan where it had like I'm sure they said it was from let me get this right, geosynchronous satellite, and it was filming the Terminator line going around. So you're on a fixed part of the land with only the shadow moving around and around.
The Terminator line, where it's like sharp.
Exactly, which is a nonsense in itself, based on what we actually observe.
Well, I mean, just when you really analyze even the 79 picture they use, which is the most realistic, probably because it's pretty high, low orbit, and they cropped it and they spherized. You can see the clouds spherizing.
Yeah, it's a good picture. Good picture.
Well, you don't have enough room. If that's all of Africa, look, well, here we go. I mean, here it is. I mean, I haven't done this one yet. Deepak, here's your ball. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. So they've even tried to match it on a ball. So let's try to get the size of Africa that you would see.
This is the picture from which one's this one?
Well, let's try to imitate the picture they show you from the Apollo.
Okay.
So it's like,
yeah,
it's kind of like that. But the problem is that they've got to match these now to that, because if it's a ball, then make everything to scale. But when you look at Canada, and then you go like that, and then you put it in Russia, I mean, Canada doesn't fit twice in Russia.
Nope.
So it's like they had to cheat everything on this to match the 79 image. Still maintain 3 parts water. So if it's like, why is everything off on this ball if the Earth is a ball? Just make it to scale. So, and when you look at that, I mean, literally, things wouldn't work out. You wouldn't have enough room for the Pacific and the Atlantic. Anyways, I could be wrong on that, but the point is Canada doesn't fit twice into Russia. So why is everything off scale on this thing? Because it's off scale because of that photo. It doesn't have enough room for Canada and both oceans and Russia. So then they stretched out Russia on this, made Canada smaller. And it's this kind of margin of confusion. And then add in like 20 zeros on the edge of every, alleged light year, where you just give up. You're like, oh, it doesn't even fit on my calculator.
The speeds up the bonkers. It gets nuts.
They just add so many zeros. Just make it so far you give up. Like they just kind of imagine you walking here. So you just give up. But anyway, so that's it. I mean, it is the modern blasphemy. So it's the blasphemy of the day. I enjoy it as a painter. And who would have known, science is, it comes down to just a bunch of artwork. NASA is the biggest art house project in human history, bigger than the Vatican with all their propaganda with angels and, little cupids and old men with white beards on the walls and the ceilings of every church around the world, because that's what it was, right? So the church used artists to have a legitimacy. In the era of the camera, we're like, oh, we don't need artists anymore. Many of you still do. You need them for all this other shit you can't see. And it's got so the new religion, the new Vatican is NASA, and they kind of basically they took their cue, be it from von Braun, who was part of Paperclip, an ex-Nazi, part of the V2 rocket program in Germany. The Jesuits were working with the SS. I mean, I even have footage of Jesuit Polish priests putting Catholic Polish priests in concentration camps. I mean, the Vatican has turned its back on its own priests, and the Jesuits were the leading philosophers and astronomers to push the heliocentric model. So we have this kind of, they got the most powerful telescopes, they created science, NASA runs with the ball. And who were the first people that were like off the boat when they were like meeting new lands and new peoples on new territories? It was the missionaries. It was the Jesuits. So, and if that didn't work, then it was the armies that would come in and then wipe everybody out. So, I mean, in the end, this is a very interesting blasphemy. The idea of blasphemy is quite interesting. I think it even states on the NASA website that if you use the of the Earth there, the Apollo, the blue marble, they call it 79, you could use it for fair use. You could use it for marketing and whatnot. And I think there's one law there. There's one rule. You can't use it or paint it in a bad light. It almost, the definition is blasphemy.
You can't paint it in a bad light, as in you can't speak ill of it.
You can't discredit the picture.
Oh, you can't discredit the picture.
Oh yeah, it's a law. It's a law.
Right. Oh dear. We're all in a lot of trouble.
So, yeah, kind of like you're not allowed to paint angels with their feet on the ground. So that image from the, I don't know if you want to plug it in, but it's the 79 mission is like protected against blasphemy. I don't know if they use the word blasphemy, but when you look it up, it's quite interesting. So it's the kind of sort of pseudo-religio theocracy that was employed by the Vatican with certain images of, or even like, by certain imams in the Muslim world where you can't paint Allah. The rules about how you use their image, just like any religion. And so that's
tell us a bit about your blasphemy. Tell us a bit about your bits on stage where you're quite literally being as blasphemous as it could be in that context.
It really does become blasphemous, and this is where it becomes funny. And it's like, who would have thought that was the taboo? That was the white elephant. That was the sacred cow. Was questioning the ball, and I just love it. I love seeing these globalists flip out and.
Your show's great. I've watched it. It's brilliant.
I found fascinating the fanatic, be it whatever they believe in, and how the fanatic. You just press a few buttons and you get this violent reaction. But they are violent people, like you were saying. I don't know if they're possessed by, spiritually, but they are definitely possessed now. I calculated there's going to be waves of consciousness that gravitate or come into this as it grows. And I coined the first people to come into this as first wave. And first wave was anybody who talked to me when I found out. I'll qualify because I made sure I was going to run with this in my life. There's no way I was going to touch this. It's like, by the way, that thing you guys all believe is a photo is a painting. You know that? There's no way I was not going to address that. It's impossible. I have OCD for ethics and also watching the shit hit the fan when the bullshit artist is exposed, especially this one. So there's no way I was going to shut my mouth on this. And I paid the price, and I paid the price physically. I almost got killed. And
that was going to be the next question, actually. So
really have a big mouth about this to protect myself. What's that?
That was going to be my next question. I mean, you've paid a heavy price. I mean, I can only begin to imagine how stressful it must have been since finding out and basically saying, well, I'm not going to tolerate this. You know, I've got a mouth, I can use it. And as you say, you've paid a heavy price for that.
Yeah, and then I developed the perception comparison test where I show images. And then, you know, like if you want to talk about reality and the Earth and all this, before I even get to that topic, we're going to go through a series of images, and then we're going to see how good you know reality just from flat images. Because everything that's coming in about the news, about what's going on in the Middle East, is all coming through a box, a flat screen, where you don't see 180. You see that point of view, the limited point of view of that frame. And you know, even Mark Sargent said, you know, there's no 360 pan around. Very good point on the moon mission. It's like, why didn't you do it? You know, so that was a good gold nugget for Mark. But then he went into, you know, L. Ron Hubbard speculation about the whole thing, and so. I mean, you do have to speculate to a degree. I mean, you're obviously of the more land philosophy. I mean, yeah, because of the security reaction that's going on right now. It's almost like it's adapting to the millions of people that are popping right now. Reports of massive Hercules type military air cargo crafts from the Australian military just sort of.
Oh, that's where you've gone. I don't know what you're talking about. This. Yeah, they cut you off. You broke up. They cut you off. Do you want to repeat your last 10 seconds? Because they
massive Hercules type air cargo planes landing on the coast of Antarctica right now, getting reports. F-18s flying over, patrolling against what? I don't know. Like the abominable snowmen army? Like, what are you doing down there? What's with the military buildup? And they got, you know, cruise missiles that are fitted on the wingtips. I got some video that was sent to me to use the full shot for A Crazier Notion, the sequel. And that makes the landing strips fortifications. And the minute I see the cruise missiles on the wingtips of F-18s flying over Antarctica, you guys are violating the treaty. All 52 of you. All 52 nations belong to the Army and the U.S. working together to disarm some weapons-grade, dirty bomb nuclear fission.
They keep cutting chunks out when you get juicy, Matt.
The U.S. and Russia disarming weapons-grade, dirty bomb uranium fission material down in Antarctica. What's that doing there? I mean, just like, we got to be down there because terrorists might. So they're like trying to fuse terrorism and Nazism with this whole thing, and it's. I think they might be worried that, look, it's not a ball. It's not the cartoon. So it's a serious situation that there's this many people even talking about this. I didn't think this was going to happen in my lifetime. You know, I thought it was going to be 500 years to take care of 500 years. I mean, the fact that watching this, the way they got to adapt NASA and the science movement and the military academic entertainment complex, you see it reacting now. I see the beast sort of breathing to my moves. Even NASA the other day, they lifted my perception test. Did you see that on Tumblr? They were like, is this the bottom of a frying pan or the moon of Venus?
Wow, they parodied you.
They can't do anything to stop me, but they can adapt and react because I'm the one that's on the side of the law. I'm the one exposing fraud, academic fraud, racketeering, front science, hiding real science, like creating this unmanned airplane grid worldwide, while they geoengineer, terraform, all the shit they said they're going to do on planets, they're doing down here with the weather. So yeah, they are definitely doing work, NASA. It's just not the work they make you think they're doing.
Yeah, you listed a load in your last in that interview that got pulled. You listed. I mean, it's farcical to think that they're not doing anything. It's the same with CERN. Obviously, they're doing scientific work.
They're doing a parallel alternative, and the people are compartmentalizing that, so they think they're actually feeding the greater operation. But no, those coatings, those epoxies, those monomers, those bots, they're being used for. Yeah, they're making you think you're building something like a, equipment for Mars, but that's, well, we're not going to Mars right yet, but your idea is really good for this unmanned aerosol drone or this flying low orbital, spacecraft vehicle, or
exactly.
This camouflage stuff, or bending light, or all this other stuff, terraforming and geoengineering. So all that stuff, AI. So
anything you've seen in the movies in the last 20 years.
I mean, why are they pushing that so much? And then also, why can't there be a sci-fi movie where the Earth is not a ball? I mean, is that a blasphemy too? Like, you can't do like a flat Earth sci-fi. You can't even do a sci-fi movie. There's been a few dark city, and it's wrong, and it was an illusion. I mean, even just on a sci-fi level, this whole concept, me pushing this as a science fiction film, is a blasphemous proposition. It's just, I'm very interested on the emotional, psychological predispositions of human beings when faced with this, and how they flip out. So first wave is anywhere, people who were told 2002 till I'd say about April 2015.
This is your era, your first wave.
Yeah, first wave conscious people were looking, like probably the smartest people, smartest skeptics, objectivists in the world, up until about May. Second wave overlaps. It starts around the beginning of April and then goes all the way to, these are second wave people, like they're more the mainstream, second wave people. And I'm not to say that third, fourth wave, fifth wave, we're not going to get some really enlightened, smart individuals, but and they could be figuring out stuff about the food supply and other things in science and at their own work. Well, it's like, that's not what they told me. And it starts to breed the skepticism of things that are developing in the Middle East. What they're doing right now is foolish, because the system is assuming that the human being is an ignorant, servile subject that's not going to question their reality.
Yeah, it's just not true.
They basically invested a little too much in that kind of arrogant confidence. It's saying that my it's gonna like shut down my computer, and I'm plugged in.
Really?
Yeah, it's saying that like.
Yeah, they've been messing with the connection. It's sort of every time you say something really juicy, it starts to cut you off. If I'm honest, I mean, you've gone out 99%.
There's a couple of things that started here, and I don't know what they are. Like, some other programs have started. It's like, it's telling me you're running out of hard drive space. Oh, 163 gigs. There it is again. Your Mac OS X startup.
You said at the start of the show that everything we own, I mean, even in modern times, we give them the permission. It's not like it's just connected and they can have access if they try. We actually give everyone permission.
Like the World Wide Web and the phone and the computer, wonderful technology, unless it's being used the way I suspect, and the way Edward Snowden, who's had to take asylum in like a foreign country, has warned us about. So, and it's being used for that. It's being used to contain revolutions. They infiltrate. They unload fake experts into a real life grassroots revolution, and they sabotage it by adhering it to crazy quackery. And so second wave consciousness is end of April into about July. Third wave is like July till about October or November. And the fourth wave is like end of October onward into about January. And as we get into fourth, fifth, sixth waves, the people will be less sane, less stable. The
It's going to start descending into chaos as more and more people find out.
Yeah, because they're just not ready on either side. They're violent. They've been watching football. They never question anything if they're on the globalist side, and on the FE side, they're gonna be suddenly experts within 3 weeks, and they're gonna go out there fusing it with nonsense speculation from all the misinformation out there, the disinformation out there, and they're gonna be in arguments with globalists. They're not gonna handle themselves like gentlewomen and gentlemen. They're gonna go, fuck you, your mother's, eats donkey snot.
Back to the comments.
Like a bunch of kids. And you kind of see that right now with the way men insult each other. I'm talking about on the FE side and on the globalist side. And it's kind of like, but this is not so much the FE movement or the globalist. It's an indication in the human mind. It's an insight.
It's the human condition.
Collective sanity of the population. What's that?
It's a human condition rather than anything to do with the FE movement.
Yeah, it's got biochemical, genetic, socioeconomic class insight into different brackets of classes and races, socioeconomic strata in countries, and depending on what area of the world, because each country is a bit of a social engineering lab vis-a-vis East-West brainwashing, the fiction of these directions, based off the globe model, based off the time zones appropriated associated with the globe. So, and the nation borders, and it's kind of interesting how nation borders, like it's rare that you have a time zone going through halfway through a country, or through the state or a province. So everything borders are respect time zones, and time zones are because we say it's a ball, and then we have borders, and you need paperwork and passports to get through these borders and time zones along this fictional world that you live in. So and then each is kind of a socioeconomic, religious theocracy, or economic laboratory. It could be a hybrid of fascism, autocracy, and capitalism, or mafiaism, capitalism, or monarchical mafiaism, like you have in the Commonwealth countries. They make you think it's a social, capitalist society, but in the end, it's a who's who. The only real, I don't mean to say that, but you definitely in Britain, you see that with just by what accent you have, right?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of snobbery.
They'll peg you with your accent, and just the way I was received by some people that are Cockney in Liverpool, who I think that accent that. Where they don't even employ consonants when they talking to you, right? It's just automatopoeia and vowels. So even those people saw me as a lower class because I was Canadian, like I was the colony, the colony of the British, belly button for the empire. So people are like that in the West with how we see
people don't get it. People are all the same. No one ever seems to understand either. I used to say people are people. They're all the same. It doesn't matter where you're from.
They're all the same in their own little way, and they're all differently the same. But so first wave, second wave, I would say are the most open-minded individuals at present on the face of known Earth. So as we get into the 5th to the 11th, you're going to see violent behavior. And this is all part of my book. This has all been anticipated. Even the unloading of counterintelligence and counter speech, where the government marshals freelance operatives to go in and pretend to be fake, to pretend to be flat Earth experts, supplying them with a book deal, or assistance editing, or a platform on a radio station. I said in my last video, beware of anything post 2012. I didn't say all of them are not good. I said beware, and with good reason. So Eric Dubé is, trying to associate this thing with Nazism, which is, for me, is just a very, very lame counterintelligence tactique. Like they dusted off the old Nazi video and then threw it at the flat Earth. Yeah, there you go. You guys are all Nazis. And I just saw that thing unroll like a bureaucracy. Started seeing signs of. I was on the road. I had very limited contact with him. I had no idea he was using my interviews about being a painter doing space imagery, which he's using as a bedrock, which everybody's using as a bedrock to actually audit the heliocentric model, in that it's based off of artwork. This is why this whole thing, there's a resurgence here, is because of the perception test I was employing on live crowds. And that's why this thing has traction. So he's using these interviews of my experience as an artist indirectly to make book sales. His book is a compilation of all other Flat Earth books with very limited in-between writings between his references and extractions that he claims he wrote, which sounds like somebody bugged my loft, because I had a lot of strangers come into my shows before YouTube was even invented, or Facebook. I was doing this in my studio and being visited regularly by SWAT teams. It's just pathetic.
What do you mean SWAT teams?
Yeah, they would show up outside the door every
SWAT
time I did
teams?
a perception test. Ask anybody. Well, you'll run into them. They'll all be coming out of the woodwork soon. People from my past, but they would show up regularly, knocking on the door. Well, I'd have 670 people. Like, I'd be running them on camera through a perception exercise to see if they know what's real, and the police would show up.
No way.
When we go to the complaint, fire, or whatever, it was some stupid thing. Noise level.
Just some bullshit then. It's not directly linked to you.
This is Commonwealth, and this is Canada. So, I had a lot of people in my place, and when it got to the point where any kind of contract I was going to do as a muralist or an artist or painter or doing design of floors would fall apart. And finally, I just told my girlfriend at the time, when we got a business, like a real good one, opportunity, let's leave the studio and go talk about it on the street with the sound, and leave the phones. And those were all the contracts that I was able to score. And I was like, my studio's bugged. My studios have been bugged. So, when I look at his book and I look at the extractions, I'm like, these are conversations I had in private with peers. So when he unloaded and he cited me in the book as Matthew Boylan, and how they insist on calling me Matthew with 2 T's. How do they know this? Why is this? So they're trying to triangulate with my past in some projects, some film projects. Try to describe.
When you say this stuff, Matt, you'll find that most people just won't buy it. If you say things like, I can just hear them ringing in my ears, even though they're not saying it yet. People saying, well, bugged, nah, maybe it's all in his head, and nonsense like that. People just can't wrap their head around how much invasion there is. Is that something you can give us a bit more detail on, just so people can kind of wrap their heads around what you're saying?
Well, because it challenges their sense of privacy and protection.
Oh, definitely. So, people don't like feeling violated, and ultimately they are non-stop, and half the time they've given them permission to do it. Skunk
Works exists. It's a Black Ops film lab that you'll be hearing about this very soon, that has been caught doctoring the Zapruder footage of Kennedy's assassination. That's going to be a legal case coming out. Gersh Agency has the original footage in LA. A lot of shit's going to hit the fan. And, Ultrasonics is a real freelance sort of Black Ops government oversight operation where they target individuals using sound weaponry and surveillance. Sound weaponry is real. Revolutions are hijacked by seeing text communique on Facebook. Would you join a platform like Facebook if you knew it was owned by the CIA?
Yeah, well, you're asking the wrong person. It's one of those. Most people would say no.
If you say, "Hey, we got a new,"
most people haven't got a clue. Most people haven't got the vaguest idea what Facebook actually is. Most people haven't got the slightest clue. They just see it as social networking.
Would you join us? The National Security Agency's got a new software where you can put your name, your face. The Onion did a great sketch on this. But would you join it? You know, like all your friends, everything you're doing, anytime you get post, nobody would do it. Oh, so let's put a poster child called Mark Zuckerberg. And, well, in case nobody believes that shit, let's make a Hollywood movie and then nominate it for Oscars. Now it's a legitimate backstory to Facebook. Come on.
Love it.
I mean, really.
You probably had 100 mates that gave you the exact same idea before he came out with it as well.
Well, here's what's interesting. You know, we know the view count's controlled so they can, you know, engineer the esteem an individual has, bringing up a controversial topic at a cocktail party over dinner when they feel it's really important to the other people there and they want to share it. Warn them. So if the view count's low, that person doesn't have the confidence to talk about it. If it's in the millions and it went to 20 million in like a day, that person's going to talk about it at the dinner table. Everybody knows about it. But if you're rolling back the zeros on the view count, and that person's like, this is really important to talk about geoengineering or chemtrails or this facet of the Middle East conflict, or, you know, like Turkey's buying oil from ISIS, whatever bullshit you want to believe that you think is important, you're going to look at the view count. So Flat Earth, if the view count is like always at 7,000 or 20,000, I mean, unless it's
anti-Flat Earth, then it's at 1 million within 10 minutes. If it's anti-Flat Earth, it'll be at 1 million within 10 seconds.
Unbelievable, yeah. And then we suspected they're rolling back the view count, and they're adding view count for music videos and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I know this is going on. We've screen capped it with my channel. They even froze like 118 videos, unbeknownst to me, because when I would load up my computer and I go on my channel, I could see all 120 videos. I think that everybody else could see them too. But did you know from like April till about 2 weeks ago, most of the people who found out in May, they only thought I had 10 videos on my channel. So
while this is their house, though. I mean, this is YouTube's house. You know what I mean? This is YouTube's house. You kind of, when you sign up for a YouTube account, I mean, I say this with a smile because I know the score. You know, I watch what happens on my channel. I know what's happening with the view count. I know, you know, where there's comments that match with things that are happening. You know, I just smile about it. I know what
to know. So mathpowerland@gmail.com if you want to send me a cover letter as to what value added you would have to doing an expedition across the Antarctic, or any kind of information that you have about any kind of new forum or blog, or who's saying what and people saying what about me or using my work. And also if you want to do a live show in a town near you or buy shirts, you could reach me at mathpowerland@gmail.com or my Facebook public profile, The Wizard Math Powerland, or you can befriend me if you're real at Matthew Powerland on Facebook, and then that's about it. And enjoy the NASA channel. That's all one word, by the way. The NASA channel. There's no space. I'm not actually using NASA's acronym. It's really TheNASAC. TheNASAChannel. So if ever I'm in court or you're using the NASA corporation or government, says no, the channel's called TheNASAChannel.
We'll totally believe you.
It's all one word. So I'm not breaking any legalities here. No NDAs.
That's right. You heard it here first. It's not breaking any laws. It's the TheNASAchannel channel. It's not the NASA channel.
No, it's even Arabic. Then Harnak Hanam. Right, so it's actually Hebrew. So then now.
Well, Math Powerland, you have been an absolutely fantastic guest. Thank you so much for being on Flat Earth UK Live. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, and I implore anybody to join Flat Club. And there's only one rule in Flat Club: everybody talks about Flat Club.
Yeah, talk about as much as you like. Shout it from the rooftops. Tell your family.
If you want to go dome, don't do it. But just be wary of anything that's alienating or espouses hatred towards a race or a religion. We need all the religions on it because, look, in the end, we've all been victims to this deception.
Yeah, so, people are people. We've all had the same lies, so let's not be horrible to different races for no good reason.
Yeah.
So, once again, Math Powerland, Thank you very much for being on Flat Earth UK. I've been Nathan Blakely, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.